For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Karen Dion, and I write psychological suspense wilderness thrillers set in Michigan's Upper Peninsula wilderness. My two novels, The Marsh King's Daughter and The Wicked Sister, have both been published in multiple languages and, bestsellers in other countries. The Marsh King's Daughter is soon to be, and I know I say this all the time, but the word on the street is we'll have a release date soon. So it is soon to be a major motion picture starring Daisy Ridley and Ben Mendelsohn. So I just can't wait for you all to see it. Okay, and so now on to our speakers tonight. Peter Abrahams. Hi, Peter. He writes as Spencer Quinn, and he's been called criminally gifted, according to the New York Times Book Review. Peter is an Edgar Award-winning author of 37 novels. Named by Stephen King as his favorite American suspense novelist, Abrahams is a writer of great range. His work including boundary-pushing crime novels such as Oblivion and End of Story, as well as the dog-narrated and New York Times bestselling Chet and Bernie series, written under his pen name Spencer Quinn, which radiate pure comic genius, according to Publishers Weekly. And so that's what brings Peter here tonight. He is his new book, Bark to the Future, a Chet and Bernie story, published in August 8, 2022. And he'll tell you more about that book in the breakout rooms. And then now on the screen, we have Bruce Cameron. Bruce Cameron is the #1 New York Times, USA Today, and internationally best-selling author of A Dog's Purpose, A Dog's Journey, and A Dog's Way Home, all of which have been made into major motion pictures. And I think everybody in the world has read A Dog's Purpose because it's been translated into over 50 languages and continues to top bestseller lists worldwide. What's interesting about the film, which he screenwrote with his wife, is it's the most successful international live action dog movie of all time. Yes, it beat out the previous champ Marley and Me. Bruce, that's just amazing. Do you just pinch yourself every time somebody introduces you with those statistics?
I just pinch myself for fun, but I do want to, I don't want to just credit her as my wife. Catherine Michon is accomplished in her own right and was a screenwriter before I met her. And she's the co-screenwriter on those movies you mentioned.
Okay, well, then no wonder they did so spectacularly well, right? It's all thanks to her.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so Bruce's new book is coming out on January 3rd. So it's right around the corner, and it's Love Clancy, Diary of a Good Dog. And so for those of you who don't know, you don't have to wait till January 3rd. You can pre-order the book now. And then if you're buying it electronically, you will get it on that day or very, very shortly after if you order it in print. So that's right around the corner. Love Clancy, Diary of a Good Dog. So Paula Munier is the USA Today best-selling author of the Mercy Carr series, which feature former MP Mercy and her bomb-sniffing dog, Elvis, who team up with game warden Troy Warner and his search and rescue dog, Susie Beat, to solve crimes in the Vermont wilderness. Her books have been widely recognized. A Borrowing of Bones, which is the first in the series, was nominated for the Mary Higgins Clark Award and named the Dogwise Book of the Year. And then Blind Search also won a Dogwise Award. The Hiding Place appeared on Best of 2020 list, and The Wedding Plot, which this is her new book, it debuted in July 2022. So I'm going to change things up a little bit. Let's go right to the book recommendations, and then maybe Paula will pop in by the time that comes. And so, Bruce, can you please tell us what book you're recommending that people read? What book you think everybody should read? That's not your own.
I am recommending this book. So what captivates me about Adriana's book is that this is the large print version, I guess. So what I find just absolutely captivating is that I was completely transported to a different time, Italy during the Second World War, and given insight into what was going on for all the Italians. And every moment I was reading this book, I felt as if I were in Italy eating the food, gaining the weight. But it was also just really just a phenomenal character study. Couldn't recommend more highly. Kept me absolutely riveted all the way through. It's a great book.
Nice. And how about yourself, Peter? What book are you recommending tonight?
Let me get it and be better prepared. So can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's open. This is the autobiography of Andre Agassi, the tennis player.
Mm-hmm.
It was the way they did this book. He did many tapings with a writer whose name I've forgotten, but who's actually a very good writer. And he was the one, his name's J.R. Moringer, and he was the one who put it together. But first of all, I've played tennis all my life and love the game, and I'm very interested in it. But even if you're not interested in tennis, he's a fascinating person. He's not just a tennis player and a great tennis player by any means. He's got a lot of depth to him. His life is complex, it's just a very dramatic. He was brought up by one of these monster tennis dad type fathers, who really kind of crushed the whole family and partly Andre too. And out of all that, he, became this wonderful champion. And not only that, but a wonderful person too. He lives in Las Vegas, where he's one of these people who just landed beautifully out of the sport, which is very difficult to do after you're under that sort of limelight. And he's married to Steffi Graf, who was also a great tennis player, who also had a monster tennis dad. Mm-hmm. And yet they're two very emotionally healthy people with a very healthy family, and they do a tremendous amount of good in the Las Vegas community. He started a school for disadvantaged kids, and it's a school that's very demanding. And I just love that combo, being demanding and at the same time caring. I mean, I think if you lower your standards, you're actually not caring. And he's a caring person. So I love the book. It's not going to help a mediocre tennis player like me get any better, because one of the things you learn is he's born with a hand-eye athletic gift that's phenomenal, and that's he wouldn't have necessarily been this champion, but the raw material was there. So Open by Andre Agassi, a very good book, even if you're not a tennis fan.
That's nice to know. And, I think the idea of a person who's had a less than ideal childhood and coming out of it as being, a kind, decent, wonderful person, is fascinating to me, because, we're not entirely shaped by our upbringing. We're not enslaved to it. Let's put it that way. So that's very cool.
Okay, this one is mine. It's called Fuzz by Mary Roach, When Nature Breaks the Law. And it's a fabulous book about wildlife and their interactions with humans. So you have elephants in India, you have bears in Aspen, you have all this different wildlife, and how sometimes their interactions with humans are not good encounters for them or for the humans. And it's a fabulous book. If you love wildlife, you'll love this book.
It sounds amazing. It sounds awesome. I do love wildlife. Okay. And so now we're going to, flip things around a little bit, and we'll go with our game of 20 questions. We have official backroom cards with questions on the other side. And we have one question that we usually don't ask the authors the same question, but this question is just too perfect. So I'm going to ask each of you the same question, and we'll start with Peter. Do you remember your first pet?
I think our first pet when I was a little kid was a fish, a goldfish that lived partly at home, and then when it wasn't taken care of properly, my dad took it to his office. I can't remember what the name of the fish was. It was a tropical fish. During our family, my whole family is very interested in the ocean and fish, spear fishing and all things like that, diving. And so we always, fish were an important thing. And we had, but I was very small and I can't remember the name of the fish. But it wasn't, it was a striped fish, about this long, I would say.
Ooh,
And
okay.
it had a little bit of coral down at the bottom and didn't do a whole lot. That was our first pet.
Well, you progressed from there then, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Paula, what about you? Do you remember your first pet?
Well, my dad always had lots of dogs, right? We had Weimaraners and Vizslas and all kinds of dogs. But my first pet of my own was a cat named Bonnie, a Siamese, named Johnny Bonnie Munier. Of course, I named it myself. I was maybe 5. I loved that Siamese cat.
Sweet. And you have cats as well as dogs, right?
Yes, we have a rescue Torby Tabby who doesn't think much of the dogs.
Yeah. That often happens. How about you, Bruce? Do you remember your first pet?
Peter's story reminds me that we, at some point in our lives when we were kids, we got guppies, and no one told my sister you're not supposed to take a bath with them. So that was a very short-lived experience raising guppies. I think what I'll tell you though is that the first real pet was this Labrador puppy that my father just, without announcement, just brings home one day. And there's a scene in my book, A Dog's Purpose, where Ethan meets Bailey for the very first time that very much captures the whole magic of the moment when I first encountered my first pet, Cammie.
That's awesome that you can use that material and put it in the books like that. That's very cool. Yeah. So now on to the round robin type questions. This is yours, Peter. This is the hardest question of all. Is your desk messy or tidy?
Pretty tidy.
Huh?
Okay.
I follow, in my writing life, I follow procedures. I don't mean in the actual writing, well, I do in the actual writing of the book as well, but I like, it's tidy, and I have a routine that I follow pretty much during the day, and having a tidy desk is part of it. But I don't tidy up the desk to procrastinate, to keep myself from writing. I'm not one of those either.
Okay, nice. And then Paula, hello.
I'm back.
No worries. We know you're improvising here tonight. Yeah. So your question is, where do you write?
Well, I really write everywhere whenever I can, because I, of course, have a day job and as an agent. And so I'm busy, but I tend to write in the living room. That's where all the dogs are. So the dogs and I hang out, and I have a little lap desk. I have an actual office, but I don't end up using it that often. It's usually filled with children or grandchildren or, guests. So I end up in the living room with my little lap desk. Hey.
Sounds like you're able to write with distractions. That's always
yes,
a good
the only way, right?
Yeah. All right. And Bruce, do you remember your first job? What was your first job?
Oh, yeah. My very first job, I was hired by the guy across the street to dig a hole for his septic tank or something. He wanted a hole for something. And I spent 3-4 days digging that hole. I was maybe 12, 13 years old. And at the very end of it, he comes out and he hands me $1. And even though this was a long time ago and $1 was worth more then, it was still just way under what I had expected. And I just looked at him and I said, I dug the hole. It took me 3 days. You're giving me $1. He said, yeah. He said, what were you expecting? I said, $20. He said, $20. I could have hired a college kid for $20. I'd say, yeah, but you would have wound up with the hole, and it'd be the same thing. And he said, well, take it or leave it. So I said, okay, I'm not going to take it. And then I grabbed the shovel and I started to put the sand back in the hole. He says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to put the sand back. You're not paying me enough money for a hole. So he runs. He says he's going to go call the police. So he runs inside, and then his wife, Kitty, comes running out. And she said, oh, Bruce, here, take this. And she gave me $25. And so I left the hole alone. So I learned a valuable life lesson there that I've been trying to figure out ever since.
Oh my goodness. That's wild. That is something else.
Wasn't that fun? We hope that you enjoyed this taste of what a backroom event is like. The best part comes immediately after, when the audience is divided into breakout rooms and the authors visit each room in turn. We'd love to show you what a breakout session is like, because these relaxed face-to-face conversations are the hallmark of our backroom events. But breakout sessions are never recorded. What's said in the back room stays in the back room.